In this video, I'm going to walk you through start to finish how to install the brand new Gigabyte RX 7800 XT gaming OC card. I'm going to show you how to remove your old graphics drivers, then how to remove your old graphics card, be it an AMD or NVIDIA card. Then after that, I'm going to show you how to install the 7800 XT drivers and all. I'm going to show you how to optimize Windows to get the best performance out of the card. We're going to take it a step further and we're going to install the control center. That way you can control all of the RGB lighting and your fan curves to get the best cooling you can out of this card. Let's start with the unboxing. After the unboxing, we'll go with the install. So here we are again, the Gigabyte Radeon RX 7800 XT Gaming OC Edition, the 16 gig card with the WindForce fans, and again, OC, Radeon 7800 XT. Along over here, kind of just some marketing telling you what's already along the front. And over here, serial number, UPC, all that good stuff. Along the back, kind of going into more detail on what the card has, all the key features, 60 AMD RDNA 3 compute units, 64 megs of AMD Infinity Cache, DisplayPort 2.1 ports, AMD Radeon's display engine, AMD Radeon Boost technology, and AMD Radeon anti-lag. Here going over the WindForce, RGB Fusion, which we will be going over in this video, screen cooling, and the metal backplate. Open it up. And just in case nothing else in the box, here the quick start guide or the quick guide, kind of going over everything in this box, and a quick installation guide surely, but we'll go over all that in this video. Here is the card, and even though I kind of doubt it, just checking to see if there's anything else. Unfortunately, nobody includes any kind of adapters or anything. It's just the card because they're so expensive. All right, Gigabyte qualified. So I received this from AMD directly. I don't think it's a refurb, but so I'm not exactly sure if you would get that when you buy it in the store. So, so this has to be brand new. You can see it has that little sticker there, so that's nice. All right, so I guess they include that in everything, the Gigabyte qualified. The card is just about 12 inches long, and I'll have the conversion down below. And about 4.5 inches wide like this, and a little over 2 inches deep like this. This has HDMI 2.1 and DisplayPort 2.1, so 1, 2 HDMIs and 2 DPs. That's kind of nice. Typically they include 3 DPs and 1 HDMI, so it's cool that they included everything here just to satisfy just about everybody. All right, so then over here is going to be some exhaust for the card for heat, and then we can see along here, I like that cutout, the way that they didn't include the metal backplate all the way through here. It's just the cutout for the 2x8 PCIe power connections, and yes, you will need both of them. They actually have lights on them to let you know when they're not connected. This does have the bias select switch, which is OC or silent mode. All right, so you can see these fins right over here, and it does have large copper heat pipes and a large copper heat plate. Can't show you that, unfortunately. Make sure before you install the card, you get rid of this. It's covering the PCIe fingers, exactly what you need to make contact with the card and the board. Now the card does come with a boost clock of 2,565 megahertz up to, and this comes with 3,840 stream processors. Again, it comes with 16 gigs of GDDR6 running at 19.5 gigabits per second. And it is utilizing PCIe 4.0, though you can go down to 3.0 as well. If you remember, I discussed these earlier. You can use all 4 at the same time. And then over here we have the WindForce, which is 3 fans. This one is going to spin this way, while these 2 are going to spin this way. And then they have these little fan blades here that should help to improve airflow. But let's go ahead and install this in the system real quick. Now, before we install this bad boy, we're going to prep the system. And before you ask, no, you don't need to do any of this. But if you want to avoid potential blue screens, different types of errors, and you want the most performance out of your system, I mean, you just spent a ton of money on the card. I think you want that. You're going to want to take these steps. So to start off with, we'll open up whichever browser, doesn't matter, and we'll go to amd.com. Now we'll click on resources and support, and we'll go to drivers. Scroll down a tiny bit, then here we'll select graphics, then we'll select Radeon RX. Since we're installing the 7000 series, we'll click Radeon RX 7000 and then 7800 XT and click submit. All right, we're going to be using Windows 11 here, but if you're using any other version, select that here, including Linux. So here, and then I never do an auto detect. I always stick to whatever release it is. Right now it's 24.5.1. When you watch this video, there might be a new version. Let me know down below what version it is you're downloading now. Then we'll click download. And while that's downloading, we'll go to wagnardsoft.com. We'll go ahead and download the latest version of Display Driver Uninstaller. So click here and scroll down a tiny bit. Then click here for download and support, tiny bit. And then we can either download the portable version or the installer. We'll do the portable. And then that downloads really quick. It's a tiny download. So we'll click open file. And I'm going to change the installation path to the root of the drive inside of a DDU folder, extract, and I'll close this out. So now, if we go into File Explorer and we go into Downloads, we'll see the latest version of DDU and the latest version of the AMD driver. So now what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and close out of here. Then we're going to hold the left shift key. We're going to right click on the start button. Then we'll hover over shutdown or shineout, and then we'll click restart. Now on this option, we'll go ahead and select troubleshoot. Then we'll select advanced options. Then we'll select startup settings. And finally, restart to change Windows options such as, and then here gives us everything here. We want to enable safe mode, so we'll click restart. All right, so that takes us into startup settings. On this screen, we have a few options. What we're gonna stick to is 4, enable safe mode, 5, enable safe mode with networking, or 6, enable safe mode with command prompt. We're gonna go ahead and select 4. So this brings us into safe mode. You can tell because each corner shows safe mode and then it tells the Windows build version here. So the reason we boot into safe mode is because while we're in Windows, Windows is holding on to those drivers. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at the drivers doing their job, controlling the video card. So in order for Windows to look good and your games to play, your Word documents to be on the screen so they can type, it needs to utilize those graphics drivers. So in safe mode, it lets go. It uses generic graphics drivers to show whatever you can show on whatever port is available, mind you, on whatever card or whatever you have. And it's just going to work with the most basics. You can't do anything with it because also in safe mode, everything else isn't active. You have incredibly basic functions. In safe mode, you can uninstall everything perfectly where you can't do that in regular Windows. So let's keep going. All right, so here we'll click on File Explorer and scroll down a tiny bit. We'll go to Local Disk C, and then we'll double click on DDU and the latest version here, and then Display Driver Uninstaller. Okay, this seems to be the first time. You're right, it is. So click OK, and you have to resize this window a tiny bit. Now this is incredibly important. NVIDIA specific options, it doesn't matter what you have, select it all. It's not going to affect you negatively if you uninstall it. That's what we're doing. Okay, scroll down a tiny bit. Now this one is incredibly important. If you have an Intel processor, place a check on everything because it doesn't matter about AMD right now. If you have an AMD processor, the CPU underneath this heatsink, if it's AMD or the motherboard utilizes an AMD processor, you want to make sure that you uncheck everything here. Intel specific, that one doesn't matter what you have. It's okay to leave a check there and then scroll down. Now, this one is incredibly important as well. Make sure there is a check under prevent downloads of drivers from Windows updates when Windows search for a driver for a device. So the English is kind of broken on that, but what they're telling you there is now we're going to boot back into Windows. When we boot into Windows, Windows is going to go, hey, we have a new graphics driver. Let's go ahead and download real quick the latest graphics driver. I don't care what's gonna happen. We need it right now. Relax, Windows. I know what to do. I can take care of it. You don't want Windows to download and install its latest driver because it's not the latest driver. It's an older version that's WICL certified, WICL Windows Hardware Quality Lab certified, that AMD pays Microsoft to get certified, and then Microsoft eventually puts it on their website and then downloads it. But it doesn't always work out properly. A lot of you have seen that already. So I'm trying to help you on that. So placing a check there means when we boot into Windows, Microsoft is immediately going to go, hey, wait a minute. And Wagnersoft is going to say, whoa, stop. My guy's got this. And it's not going to try to download it. So that'll give you time. So let's keep going. So we'll click close here because we have a check, and then we'll select device type here. It's going to be for our GPU. And it automatically detects that we have an AMD graphics card because this is a 7600 XT. So if by mistake it did choose AMD and we had an Intel card or an NVIDIA card, we'd just select that here. But again, we have AMD. And then now we have the options to clean and restart, clean and do not restart, and clean and shutdown. Since we're going to be removing this card and placing the new card in its place, we're going to go ahead and do a clean and shutdown. And this is only going to take a few seconds, maybe a minute. Now that the system shut down after uninstalling the graphics driver, let's go ahead, disconnect all the cables from the computer, leaving only the power cable connected, switching the system off by little on the power supply, and then let's remove the old graphics card and then install the brand new graphics card. So before we touch anything inside of the system, even though we have the power cable plugged into the power supply, ground yourself by touching the case, touching the metal parts of the system, not the components. The case itself, that's going to go ahead and get rid of all the ESD in your hands. If you step away and then come back, touch it again because you build up ESD over time as you're moving. So touch the case again, and then you'll be free of ESD. So the first thing we're going to do is disconnect the PCIe connections off the card. So to do that, we'll just press down over here, and that is going to release the clip from the graphics card. So pull it out here with us pushing down on that clip, and then there we're good there. So now on the second PCIe cable, we'll push down on this little clip right over here, and then you're going to see that's going to lift this up, allowing us to disconnect from the card, and so we can pull it out. So again, pops up, and then we can pull it out. Easy enough, right? And then we're going to undo these two screws right over here, removing it like I am with the system standing up because it's easier for me to record. Make sure you have your hand right here so the card doesn't fall down, just in case. And I'm gonna let that screw drop. And now let's come around the back. Right now, the card is actually locked in place. We can pull on it and it's not going to come out. If you pull on it too hard, you're actually going to rip the PCIe socket out of the board itself. The reason for that is back here, where I have the head of the screwdriver hitting right now, that's a locking mechanism. And without the heatsink in the way, let me show you real quick. So here is the card itself, and there is the locking mechanism holding the card in place. We'll just push this in, and now the card comes off really easy. And now that we have the old card out of the way, let's go ahead and insert the new card. So matching up the PCIe fingers with the PCIe slot, and also making sure that little locking mechanism is opened right over here. This is closed, this is open. We'll go ahead and insert the card right over here. And once it's seated properly over here where all the fingers fit right into the slot, we'll push this in and you'll notice that locking mechanism just go automatically. All right. So now we're going to connect the two PCIe connections from the power supply to the graphics card. And yes, they both need to be connected. So we'll either grab a 6 plus 2-pin connection or a straight 8-pin PCIe connection, both being PCIe for the graphics card, not an 8-pin EPS connection for your CPU. So then we'll go ahead and just connect that right into here. Push it in, and that same piece that we pushed down previously is going to go ahead and pop up and connect right in place here. We'll push that right into here, and then we'll just push that right in. And now we've installed both PCIe connections. And now that we have the card in, don't forget, we need to screw it in. So just make sure, screw them in before you're done with the inside of your case. All right, so now we're going to reconnect everything to the back of the system. Just remember, if you're coming from having no graphics card before, you were using the on-die GPU on the CPU, now you don't connect your graphics card over here. You connect the HDMI right down there. All right, then your Ethernet and USB, all that good stuff. Don't forget to flick your power supply back on. Now we're going to turn the system on for the first time. All right, now that we're back in Windows, let's go ahead and go into File Explorer, Downloads, and let's go ahead and install the latest AMD drivers. So right now I'm installing on my capture card, so that's why it might look a little funny. And under additional options, even though we already use DDU, I like to do this as a backup. I enable factory reset. That's going to go ahead and restart the system and almost do the same we did before. And then we select install. But because it already saw that we have gotten rid of all the drivers, it said, never mind, you're crazy. We're gonna go ahead and continue installing anyway. I'm going to uncheck the help AMD improve the experience and then click finish here. So now the AMD Adrenalin suite is going to open up. We're going to do a quick tour through it and set it up and everything. So we're going to do skip this. And so here I like to use this software a lot, especially when I'm recording and doing gameplay, which we'll do in another video. HyperRX and all of these global experience. HyperRX allows you to get more performance out of your car, and it does take a little tiny hit on the way it looks, but it's not bad at all. Here is where it shows you the videos you're capturing. You can record a video here, which is what I use for gameplay. You can do an instant GIF or GIF, however you prefer to say it. Even though GIF is correct, I prefer GIF. Instant replay and take a screenshot. We don't need to do anything here though. And then here it scans for the latest version, but we're already up to date. We'll go under gaming here. Here it's going to show all the games we have installed, and we can change many aspects from the game. Graphics, here's where we enable AFMF. It's disabled out of the box. Very good feature, and make sure you leave that for vertical refresh off unless application specifies. Enhanced sync, I leave that default, and nothing there we need to play with right now. Now we'll go under display. FreeSync is enabled, definitely a game changer there to have that enabled. And the rest here, this is where I do the recording for gameplay and where you would live stream, and performance. Here is where you have your metrics. You can start logging. You can have an overlay, which I include in some videos. Smart Tech, we can leave that all default. And the other thing I like to disable, only because I use a capture card sometimes, is if I click under search here and type HDCP and I come under here under override, is I disable HDCP, the copyright protection. You can't do that with a capture card. But again, here we don't need it. So now the other thing, because the card has RGB, mind you, it's only this logo, but there's a few more features that are pretty cool about the software. If I do a search for Gigabyte 7800 XT Gaming OC, we go to the main page for this particular card. So if we go to support over here and we go to utility, we need to download the Gigabyte Control Center full. There's two versions here. This is the newest one, so we'll download that real quick and click open. Because this is a single file instead of a zip file, it's okay to run it from inside. And we'll just go through this installer real quick. I'll fast forward it. All right, once we're here in the end user license agreement, make sure to read through all that. Incredibly important stuff, and click accept. And you can read this if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and skip it. We're going to go to Update Center here. I always recommend to keep your software nice and updated. That way you make sure you have all the latest and greatest features and fix a lot of those pesky bugs in the back end. And skip, and then we'll go ahead and install the storage library, part of an update. So yes, we'll restart this. And it shouldn't take very long. So that's updated. Let's go over here to RGB Fusion, and then we'll play with the fan control. Yes, there is a fan curve. Beautiful. So under RGB Fusion, we see the logo here, but you see there's only one RGB light here. So what we'll do is we'll come over here, and I just want to show you how that works. If we want to change it to yellow, select yellow here, and it changes on the fly, so that's beautiful. You don't have to click apply, so that's cool. Now let's say you want to change it to color shift. And then of course, here you can change what you want it to shift to. Let's go to gradient. Now my favorite one here is going to be pulse. But I don't like the way it's pulsating. That's just kind of too fast. Let's change that speed right here. That's better. That's more relaxing. Maybe a blue. Much better. Maybe a little tiny bit slower. I would call that more breathing, but pulse works. Let's say we like static. So you got the option to change just about anything here. Now, fan control, this is something you all want, and if you don't, you should. By default, it comes under auto mode here, and the fans are off right now. I'm not hitting my fingers or anything. I recommend switching it to custom, and then I kind of don't like the auto fan stop, but it works. Now, the way that this works is over here is the percentage of the fans spinning, and then over here is the temperature. So that tells me 20% at 30 degrees. Now, no matter what, it's not going to spin because this is in Celsius. My house is 63 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 17 degrees Celsius. So it's not going to do much. It's cool because, you know, once it does reach that 25 degrees Celsius, it's going to jump up from idle, which it is right now, to 20%. And then, you know, as it gets hotter, it'll change its rotation. That's great. It's not great that you can't hear it. Let me show you real quick what it sounds like. So we'll go to fixed. So right now at 20. Now we'll click it on 20%. And you can see them spinning, but it's so quiet. That's definitely not a lot louder. Let's try 60. That's definitely a lot louder. Let's try 70. 80. 90. And 100. That is loud. And you can feel all that air coming out right over here. That's pretty awesome. But what I like better is that. That's so quiet, that's beautiful. And then let's say, you know, you want to change those profiles and you want to save them, many different profiles. You can do that here. They only have one here, but you can keep adding. Then under performance, this is one I'm not going to play with too much because I could be here all day. You can see your current, your min, your max, and your average GPU clock, VRAM, GPU core voltage, utilization, and temperature. And then you can undervolt the GPU, overclock the GPU, and overclock the RAM. Over here, yep, you gotta accept the warnings, all that good stuff. Yep, I get it. And yeah. That's just showing you everything. Preset tuning. These are some of the presets that between balanced and quiet, and customize. This is where you can get down and dirty and do what you like. Again, I could be here all day playing with this, but I want to get you an idea of what you're working with here. The presets, again, balanced and quiet, and then all of these as well. And then one of the most important performance improvements when optimizing your graphics card, minimizing this, simply is right-clicking on your background, going to Display Settings, Advanced Display, and raising your refresh rate to the highest possible your monitor supports. Default is typically 59.94 or maybe 60 Hertz. You have to come in here and then adjust it to the highest possible refresh rate listed on this scale, set it, and then keep changes. And that one, along with the other performance improvements, is going to give you a tremendous improvement. In this video, I've taken you from start to finish on how to install your brand new Gigabyte Radeon RX 7800 XT gaming OC card. I've taken you from removing your old card, drivers and all, to installing your brand new card and then installing the latest and greatest drivers. And then afterwards, I installed the Gigabyte software to show you how to enable all the RGB lighting and all the different effects it has, as well as the incredibly important fan curves. Let me know if you like the way I've added it into this video. Coming up next, I'm going to show you some gameplay so that you can see the kind of performance you can expect on this card. So stay tuned. Iggy with ThisBytesForYou out. See you guys.